In a very short amount of time, we've gone from having no ETFs that pay weekly dividends to them exploding in popularity. It was only a little over a year ago that we got our very first weekly dividend ETF, besides the two funds that were introduced by SoFi and then quickly discontinued. Now, as of the making of this video, I've discovered there are currently 49 ETFs that pay dividends on a weekly basis. The vast majority of these funds switch their dividend frequency, going from monthly payments to weekly, but some of them have been paying weekly from the very beginning. And I should also mention that apparently very soon, we're going to see our very first semi-weekly ETFs, meaning that they'll pay dividends twice every single week. I wanted to put this video together to hopefully serve as a valuable resource for people who are interested in weekly paying ETFs and seeing what's available out there. Because although there are plenty of lists that are available of monthly paying stocks, there's no in-depth resource that exists for weekly funds that I'm aware of. I've made resources like this in the past, and they're usually pretty time intensive, so if you appreciate the effort, then please click the subscribe button if you want to see more of these and give this video a thumbs up. If you're interested, after this video, I've made another video of every single monthly paying stock that exists. But before we get started, I need to add a couple of disclaimers. This video is for informational purposes only and is not an endorsement of any specific ETF mentioned. I'm not going to go too in-depth on any particular holding because going in-depth on all of these would make this video extremely long. So do your own research and come to your own conclusion before making any investment decision. Keep in mind that just because an ETF pays weekly doesn't mean that it's automatically better than an ETF that pays monthly or quarterly. Also, because there's new funds being introduced all the time in this category, this video may be outdated depending on when you happen to be watching it. So keep that in mind if you think I'm missing something. But with that being said, let's get started. Here's some stats about the weekly ETFs that currently exist. I've separated them into 9 categories, which are commodities, crypto, fund of funds, index funds, the Magnificent 7, sector-specific, single stock covered call funds, treasuries, and other. There's currently 2 Treasury ETFs that exist if you want a weekly paying alternative to SGov or some other Treasury ETF or mutual fund. There's no option strategy being used with either of these two, they're just Treasuries. The Roundhill Weekly T-Bill ETF, ticker WEEK, is one of those options. It pays weekly distributions that come straight from Treasuries. The other option that exists is the Texas Capital Government Money Market ETF, ticker MMKT. This one isn't exactly a pure Treasury fund, but I'm putting it here because it holds cash and US government securities, which may include fixed, floating, and variable rate securities, as well as repurchase agreements collateralized fully by US government securities or cash. $100 that you've probably never heard of Texas Capital, but it's a bank that's located in Dallas, which I guess is trying to stand out by launching their own weekly paying ETF. Despite the name of the fund, it's not actually by the Texas government themselves. Because of our high interest rate environment, both of these two ETFs currently yield over 4% in ultra-safe government-backed investments. Next, we have 2 commodity funds, which are both offered by the company Defiance. Their Oil Enhanced Options Income ETF, ticker USOY, uses an at-the-money or in-the-money put-selling strategy to provide income and exposure to the share price of USO. USO is the United States Oil Fund, and it's a measure of crude oil prices. Their Gold Enhanced Options Income ETF, ticker GLDY, uses the same option strategy on ticker GLD. It's the Spider Gold Trust ETF, which tracks the performance of gold prices. There's currently 6 crypto weekly paying ETFs. These funds are either exposed to Bitcoin, Ethereum, and/or companies that are involved with cryptocurrencies. So that could be holding stocks of crypto brokerages and crypto miners. There's currently 1 ETF that's purely exposed to Ethereum, which is the Roundhill Ether Covered Call ETF. It utilizes a synthetic covered call strategy on Ether futures, so it doesn't directly own Ethereum itself. There's also 3 ETFs that focus on Bitcoin exposure specifically, which are the Roundhill Bitcoin Covered Call ETF, the Granite Shares Yield Boost Bitcoin ETF, and the Global X Bitcoin Covered Call ETF. All 3 are covered call funds and have slightly different strategies from one another. This is actually Global X's first weekly dividend ETF, so they're also jumping on this bandwagon. Then there's also LFGY, which is the YieldMax Crypto Industry and Tech Portfolio Options Income ETF. This fund is exposed to the iShares Bitcoin Trust ETF, as well as Bitcoin-heavy companies like MicroStrategy, Coinbase, and Robinhood. Then finally we have the Nicholas Crypto Income ETF, ticker BLOX. This one invests in both Bitcoin and Ethereum and blockchain companies. Nicholas Wealth is another really small random company that just decided to launch a weekly dividend ETF. They have 2 other dividend ETFs, but they don't pay on a weekly basis. The biggest category of weekly paying ETFs are those that use some kind of option strategy on a single stock. They usually involve using a synthetic covered call strategy, which means the fund doesn't actually own the underlying security, and instead they attempt to replicate its share price movements using various option strategies. But there are also a couple that are different in that they write covered calls on a highly leveraged ETF that holds a single stock. You're going to want to check with each individual fund what strategy they use if you're interested. But I'll just briefly go through all of these because there's some overlap. Some individual stocks will have multiple weekly paying ETFs after them. There's currently 22 weekly paying funds in this category that I was able to locate, and they're all by the 4 same companies, which are Roundhill, Rex Shares, Granite Shares, and Defiance. There's currently one for Apple stock, ticker AAPW, one for AMD, ticker AMDW, one for Amazon, ticker AMZW, and one for Broadcom, ticker BRKW. There's also 2 available for Coinbase, ticker COII and COIW. There's one for Alphabet, ticker GOOW, and there's one available for Robinhood, ticker HOOW. There's one for Meta, METW, and one for Microsoft, which is ticker MSFW. There's currently 3 available for MicroStrategy, MSII, MST, and MSTW. There's one for Netflix, which is NFLW, and 3 for Nvidia, which are NVDW, NVII, and NVYY. There's one for Palantir, PLTW, and 3 weekly funds for Tesla, TSII, TSLW, and TSYY. There's currently one weekly dividend ETF that holds the Magnificent Seven. This is a group of 7 major tech companies that have significantly outperformed the market over the past decade. When I was making this, I could have sworn there was more than just one ETF in this category, which is why I put it in its own category, but apparently there's just one. That would be the Roundhill Magnificent 7 Covered Call ETF. This one does not appear to use a synthetic strategy, unlike a lot of their other funds. It holds all 7 mag companies, which includes Nvidia, Alphabet, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, and Tesla. With index funds, there's currently 11 that are available. We have 3 that use covered calls on the S&P 500, which are QDTE by Roundhill, YSPY by Granite Shares, and SDTY by YieldMax. Both the Roundhill and YieldMax funds are 0 days to expiration funds, which means they generate income by selling out-of-the-money 0DTE call options on the index. The Granite Shares fund does something different. To generate income, YSPY sells put options on leveraged ETFs linked to the 3x long SPY daily ETF. Then there's also 3 index funds that mirror the NASDAQ 100. Those are XDTE by Roundhill, TQQQY by Granite Shares, and QDTY by YieldMax. Their strategies are all the same as the ones for the S&P, including the Granite Shares 3x long exposure. Then there's 2 index funds that are on the Russell 2000. Those would be RDTE and RDTY. Granite Shares does not have a weekly paying fund for this index. There's also 3 ETFs that were formerly target income ETFs, but oddly Defiance recently changed their strategies on these funds and they're now more like index funds. That would include their R2000 Enhanced Options and 0DTE Income ETF, ticker IWMY, their NASDAQ 100 Enhanced Options and 0DTE Income ETF, ticker QQQY, and WDTE, their S&P 500 Enhanced Options and 0DTE Income ETF. If you go on most stock websites like Yahoo Finance, it still shows the old name for these ETFs under the ticker symbols, but they no longer offer a target yield and are just 0DTE funds. There's 2 funds that I put in the category of sector specific. These are ETFs that hold stocks from one particular sector, and their fund managers select stocks based upon whatever parameters they have outlined. One is GPTY, which is the YieldMax AI and Tech Portfolio Option Income ETF. It holds various companies that are specifically tech and more specifically, play some role in using or creating artificial intelligence. Their top holdings though are mainly just NASDAQ 100 stocks, but everything here apparently uses AI to a certain degree. Then there's also CHPY by YieldMax, which is their semiconductor portfolio option income ETF. As the name suggests, it's exposed to a variety of semiconductor companies, including Analog Devices, Taiwan Semiconductor, Lam Research, and approximately 77 others. There's also two fund of funds ETFs. These are funds that exclusively hold other funds, so they're ETFs that only hold other ETFs. Ticker YMAG holds 7 of the YieldMax ETFs, which are all covered call funds on the Magnificent 7 that we discussed earlier. And I guess this would be the other ETF that I mistakenly put here instead of the Magnificent 7 category. Then there's also YMAX, which is their Universe Fund of Option Income ETFs. YMAX only holds other YieldMax funds, approximately 33 of them, and some of them are funds that have already been covered up to this point. If you're a fan of this company and believe in their strategies, then it's a good source of diversification. Just like a lot of their funds, YMAX used to pay monthly dividends, but they made the switch to weekly about 11 months ago. Then finally I have an other category. There's only one, which is ticker ULTY, the YieldMax Ultra Option Income Strategy ETF. The managers apparently pick investments for this fund, which would include individual stocks and even ETFs and closed-end funds, mainly based upon their levels of implied volatility. It's one of their most diversified funds, and it's quickly becoming YieldMax's most popular ETF. I'll likely make a dedicated video for this one specifically since it's so unique, so be on the lookout for that. But that's going to conclude our look at every weekly paying dividend ETF that currently exists. I'm sure this list is going to be outdated in just a few months, but if you appreciate the work, then please consider giving this a thumbs up and subscribing if you want more resources like this. But with that being said, that's going to wrap up today's video. If you'd like to connect with me and see what's inside of my own high-yielding dividend portfolio, then feel free to check me out over on Patreon. You'll be notified when I make trades, and you'll get access to our Discord with other high-yielding investors. Thanks again for watching. Please be sure to like this video and subscribe if you want more high-yielding investment content.